Hello, bonjour, 你好，Anya, hola，我是
The boy CP.
Hello!
Get that cabbage out of here!
What's good, everybody? This is CP and welcome back to my NBA fantasy series. Welcome to a very special episode where I want to share tips to help you win your fantasy playoff matchups in the coming weeks. Before I start this video, I just wanted to give a huge shout out to my frenemy and arch rival Juice for making me aware of this strategy. I guess the man is a 3-time diamond fantasy player for a reason. Anyways, I hope everyone can use the ideas in this video to help them take home the chip this year. So without further ado, let's get it. Simply put, knowing how to manipulate fantasy schedules during the playoffs is key. In my opinion, this is not done enough by the average fantasy player. In the past, I have seen some head-to-head playoff matchups that was decided by less than 5 rebounds, 1 assist, and 1 steal. So during playoff season, you really need every advantage you can get. And knowing how to manipulate the fantasy playoff schedule to maximize your total man games can be a huge game changer. In most standard leagues, fantasy playoffs usually take place during weeks 22, 23, and 24. So here's a breakdown of teams with the best and worst schedules. If I'm talking too fast, be sure to pause the video or take screenshots of all the details. In the coming weeks, having players on the Washington Wizards and the Sacramento Kings will give team owners a huge advantage. Both teams have 4 game weeks for 3 consecutive weeks during the playoffs. Meanwhile, teams like the Cavs, Nuggets, Pistons, Rockets, Clippers, Lakers, and Jazz all have pretty decent schedules as well, as all of them have 2 weeks where they play 4 times. On the other hand, teams like the Pelicans, Timberwolves, Sixers, and Suns have the weakest playoff schedules this year. In week 22, the Golden State Warriors and the Memphis Grizzlies only play twice that week. If you own any players on those teams, this could put you at a huge disadvantage. I'm not saying that you should drop Draymond Green or Mike Conley right away, but it might be something you want to consider later in the week, especially if it's a non-keeper league. If we take a look at the stats, there are 9 teams with 4 games and 18 teams with 3 games that week. So pretty much every other player holds a man games advantage over Grizzly and Warrior players. If you don't have a bye week, it might not be a bad strategy to drop a player from Golden State or Memphis midweek, especially if you think you need those extra games to survive the matchup. At this point, there is little incentive to hold your players. If you lose that week, your season is over. In week 23, a team owning Magic or Nets players might put you in a tough spot. Both these teams have only 2 games that week. Meanwhile, 17 other teams have at least 4 or more games, including the Warriors with 5. I don't think a player like Curry, Durant, or Cousins will play all 5 games, so you might be able to stream a few bench players on the dubs to capitalize on the extra games. Holding a dominant player like Vooch or D'Lo will be a catch-22. Yes, they are fantasy studs, but with only 2 games that week, they will have to put up very good numbers to make up for their lack of games. On the other hand, if they flop, you will need to rely on other players on your squad to step up big time to carry you through the week. In week 24, the Knicks has the least fantasy-friendly schedule with 2 games. Depending on the outlook of your team and your opponent, you might want to consider cutting a guy like DeAndre Jordan, Mitch Robinson, or Dennis Smith Jr., especially if there's something better on the waiver wire. 9 teams have 4 games that week and 20 other teams have 3, so there's a chance that you could find something good. I understand it might be tough to cut a guy like Mitch Robinson or DJ, but in week 23, you're playing for a championship, and you need every advantage you can get. Depending on how deep your waiver wire is, you could potentially find some playoff heroes as well. A tip to remember is that if you have a choice between 2 players, it's probably safer to go for the one who plays on a team that is battling for a playoff spot, or a young rookie on a bad team that is given plenty of minutes to develop late in the season. As I said before in one of my previous videos, minutes played in fantasy basketball is key. If a dominant player like AD is only given 10 minutes a night, it will be very hard for him to produce top 50 value. So that's a look at a few tips that could potentially help you bring home the championship this year. If you enjoyed this video, please show me some love by liking, sharing, and subscribing. And be sure to let me know if you took home the championship in your leagues this year. That's it for today, and I'll see everybody next time.